Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. And it seems like we are live. We start off all of these streams in a very similar way because we click the button and then it goes around in circles. It says ready to stream. Now it says live on Vimeo, Facebook, YouTubes, and everything. Okay, so if this is working for you, please let us know in the chat room that it is, and if it's working well, if you can hear everything, and then where you're beaming in from. This is the Reinventing Drawing Group with Jason Leeser on Sunday afternoons every 1 o'clock at 1 o'clock Eastern. We get together, and if you are an artist and want to beam in, then you can join us. To do so, you want to head on over to the Reinventing the Tattoo community. This is actually where we're beaming out through our kind of network too, thanks to Reinventing. You could find the mobile app in either of the app stores, or you can go to community.reinventingthetattoo.com and then join the community. If you check out the event schedule, then you will see not only the link to watch this, but you're already watching, so you don't need that, but you'll see all the links to all the other shows, I guess. But point being is you'll be able to find the Zoom link to join this if you would like to. So the last stream that we put out through the network was Live in the Castro, a tattoo podcast with hosted by Haley Adams, straight from the Castro with Ace. And you could check out all of the previous streams in the Reinventing library. If you go to that app, you click on library, the video section, we've got all the replays for all of the shows. So while I'm testing to see if this is working, I am going to share my screen and take a peek at the upcoming schedule so that everyone is aware kind of what's going on, because we're doing a lot. We want to make sure everyone knows. Tonight, at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard, Monsters and Mythology Fantasy Art Paint Jam with Leo. If you head on into the app, CTHU Leo, he's got some pretty awesome, obviously back tattoos as you can see here, but he's got the underpaintings, some pretty amazing original art. And he's got a whole setup ready for us. Actually, let me fire up my phone here again real quick, because he sent over a great little introduction here. So let's see, things I do in preparation for a new painting, including research, gathering references, photography and taking photographs of models, looking at and studying other art and paintings, doing thumbnails, sketches, drawings, color studies, underpaintings, paintings. He knows it sounds like a lot of prep, but point being is he is a sick painter, a great tattooer. So it's going to be a very fun art jam with Leo tonight. We do these art jams pretty much every other Sunday night. If you check out, the last one was with Nick Baxter. It was pretty sick. Again, go to the app, find the library. Monday mornings, 9 o'clock, Monday mornings, Eastern Standard Time at least. Wicked early for the West Coasters that have been getting up. 6 o'clock in the morning, they've been getting up and doing the same art group with us. This one is, on Monday mornings, is with Jake Meeks. And he runs the Fireside Tattoo Network, a great YouTube channel. He's got seminars and stuff, a wealth of information. And he brings a good crew of people with him too. At noon on Mondays, we have Let's Talk Tattoo with Mark Piscarbo from Needle Jig. He's got full-length interviews he's done. Let's see, Renee Little's in the archives, Billy Spacey Lyons, who's also an amazing musician and a fabricator. Those are full-length interviews. Mark's also done, he's going to be doing a Q&A with Machines and Supplies, tours and stuff. Anyways, Monday at noon, Mark Lascarbo has been, he's too old to die young now. Every 9 o'clock at night on Mondays, Guy Aitchison leads an exclusive subscriber group exercise. So this is, if you are a subscriber of the Reinventing the Tattoo Canon, it's $2.99 a year. It is updating all the time, and Guy's going through it actually as we speak. It has the old book, completely updated. It's got new guest chapters, new videos, everything that it's had with more. It's got an archive of all of the exclusive group exercises, and you get access every Monday so that you could beam in and work with Guy and the whole crew. You could get critiqued by everybody if you want to. So that's every 9 o'clock on Monday nights. Tuesday at 10 o'clock. For the next 8 Tuesdays, we're doing how to build a Paul Rogers style prefab tattoo machine with hand tools with Tony Urbanik. It's never too late to join. You could watch the replays and get just as much out of it, right? Although if you are catching this now and you're ready, you could sign up and then catch all of these webinars live every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And if you go to courses.reinventingthetattoo.com, then you can find more information about that course. You see on our schedule, we have a management meeting at 12. You won't see that in your schedule because that's only for management. Okay, Travis Louie, Art Talk with Guy Aitchison. We are very excited. If you don't know Travis Louie's work, it is pretty out of control. But we're not really, we'll talk a little bit with Travis about his amazing illustrations and fine art, paintings and musings and all of that. But if you follow Travis on Facebook, you are going to know that he's always bringing up stories of amazing painters and artists from, from history as well as contemporary people. A wealth of information. He does teach actually at art schools and whatnot. So this is going to be an amazing opportunity for us to be able to pick the brain of somebody who is outside of the tattoo world, and obviously has an impeccable eye and a gift for storytelling. Travis Louie, go check him out. He also has an amazing gallery. You can buy prints and stuff. They're really affordable, and he does have some pretty awesome original art. It's well worth it too. I get to see it in person here at the Basic Gallery in Northampton. Okay, last event for the week before I hand it over. Every Thursday at noon Eastern, the Tattoo Collecting Podcast with Jordan Rickus and Fawn Baker. They talk to tattoo collectors. The pictures are always amazing whenever we get them to post up. Last week's was a collector of Ty McEwen, full-on bodysuit, an amazing collector, great stories, and this is perfect for if you're collecting tattoos and you want to kind of skip straight to the lessons learned from people that have been doing it for years, as well as tattooers. You talk to clients every day, obviously, but this is a way for you to really just talk to experienced collectors or hear the stories from the experienced collectors. And and Jordan and Fawn do a great job. You could catch all of their replays in the Inspirational Library. It feels like this is working. So again, if you are watching, let us know if all the audio and video is working. Let us know where you're beaming in from. If you have any questions about drawing or what's going on, then let us know, and I'll try not to interrupt, but I'll ask your questions for you if I can. And sponsors, of course. Check out the inkjet stencils section. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, we've got inkjet stencils here. And if you are looking to get a sample inkjet stencil made, you could treat your artwork and email it over. And if you want to figure out how to do that, let's head on to the inkjet stencils section of the Reinventing app. And as you can see, we have a whole library here of demos, and it's pretty sick. And if you want, you can, again, treat your images, and then they will email you, or not email you, they'll mail you out the actual stencil. So you'd want to have to do this for, tattoos you're doing in a couple of weeks. But also definitely check out Andre Malcolm's videos. He's printing out tons of large scale stencils, back pieces, sleeves. It's pretty sick. Okay, I'm going to no, one more thing. We do have a featured member that we want to make sure we plug. Heinz. We click a couple buttons in the community, and the people that are participating often will get a ranking. And as you can see, this is some of his ZBrush reference. There's a reason why he came out on top here. He's also part of the Collab Lab, and some of his pictures here are with other people, but he's pretty sick. And so we want to make sure that each time we do one of these intros, we feature some people here. Check this out. This is great. So yeah, if you hop on the Reinventing community, either in the mobile app or community.reinventingthetattoo.com, then find Heinz Grained. He's also doing some cool stuff on Instagram. I think he's got a reference library. And okay, I think, let's see, Ancient Stencils featured member, talk about upcoming shows. Last stream, I'm out of here. Thank you very much. Take it away, Jason.
Hey guys, and welcome back to today's drawing session, Sunday afternoons with me. My friend Casey Hart is here as well again. Casey, thanks for joining us. I think you do need to unmute yourself. There you go.
I am unmuted now. Dun, dun, dun.
Yay! So welcome back, everyone. Don't know if you guys are enjoying watching us draw and chit chat or not. If you ever have any questions, feel free to send us a chat, no matter what platform you're streaming in on. We've got, I think I've got 5 different like chat boxes and comment boxes up so I can kind of keep an eye on things. If not, we've got Gabe. He's in the background. Gabe, thank you so much for monitoring everything.
Thank you, Gabe. You are awesome.
If you guys have anything that you want to see, anything that you want us to discuss or talk about or anything of that nature, always feel free to send us a message or make a comment in one of the live chats, and we'll bring it up and definitely talk about it. Hey, how's it going? You're coming in from Uruguay. That's awesome.
Wow, that's really cool. Uruguay.
Yeah.
I feel so lame being from Maryland.
Well, I mean, it's Maryland.
It's Maryland. What can you do? Ignore my messy
That's
house.
okay. Coming from Philly is kind of like one of those, oh, you're from Philly kind of things. And yeah.
we definitely get the Baltimore. Oh, you're from Baltimore? That's special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Trust
God.
me, I know that feeling all too well.
Yep. Let me flip myself back over here.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring this down a little bit more and move that over. All right, cool. I think I'm good. Think so? Yeah. Cool. All right, so I'm just working on what I started last week. Trying to get a little bit more in depth with it, and just trying to go through and refine my shapes and refine, my basic forms that I really want to be in here. Nothing super crazy, and just kind of going through, keeping it nice and loose. And that's one thing that took me years to figure out. Like art school and everything didn't really click for me, that if you just keep things loose and rough and big and bold, like when you first start sketching things out, as you're drilling down and as you're doing layer upon layer and drawing it again and again and again and again, you're actually not only like getting that muscle memory down of how those shapes and forms flow, but it helps you really refine it, and it makes the whole process a whole lot quicker.
Absolutely, because you're kind of problem solving throughout that entire thing. You're figuring out anatomy, you're figuring out shape and everything. And people that draw a line or 2 lines and 3 lines and then they just erase it, they're going to spend so much more time trying to get a perfect shape so much quicker than you would just sketching and layering until it's right where it needs to be. You're just kind of problem solving throughout everything.
Yeah, probably. And as I always like to tell everyone, part of being, a tattooer or an artist in general is being able to think outside the box and, figuring things out on the fly. And it's like, oh, wait, this isn't working. How do I do this? Or, okay, well, here's an unexpected challenge, like, in the middle of doing a tattoo and, oh, wait, totally forgot to mark out where that mole is. So let's adjust this a little bit.
That's all tattooing is problem solving and adjusting and correction all the time.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it. It's funny because people expect you to, and they imagine us being perfect. We have to pretty much be. I mean, you're pretty perfect to me. So
I don't know if you got that memo or not.
I did. I got it. I understood when I met you. I was like, this kid's perfect.
Just making sure.
This guy's perfect. But it is kind of funny that we make so many adjustments and changes and seeing all these challenges and problem solving, even way after the drawing is finished. You think that's where everything is done, said and done. No, you get it on the skin and you make an adjustment here and an adjustment there, make this change and think it on the fly. I think they would be terrified if they knew that, though.
Trust us. I would be, but
trust us, please.
it's quite often something that I don't think a lot of like the average non-tattooer person out there actually really comprehends
Hmm.
is just how often we have to go through and adjust everything on the fly.
Yep.
You know, we don't sometimes we don't even have a choice. It's like, okay, no, well, this is happening. You know, I need to go through and do this. You might not understand why, but trust me when I say it's going to make for a much better tattoo in the long run. You know,
But
and as long as people trust you, then, 90% of the time they're cool with it. You know,
yep.
unless you get someone in there that's like, no, this little piece of this tattoo has to be just like this.
Yes,
You know?
it's for me.
So
I actually really love the way you're drawing the snake being so embedded into the flower, because my brain would just think flower, snake going in and behind. That's it. This is really kind of sinking into it. That's what I really like about
well, it
the
creates a
shape
little
of
bit
this.
more depth, in
Absolutely.
integrating different shapes in different areas and, having certain elements overlap and whatnot. That visually right there, just from a line drawing, creates the sense of depth. And it really creates the fact that, hey, this snake is kind of like weaving its way in and around this chrysanthemum, and it's not just like static.
Hmm.
You actually have integrating parts where it's like, okay, maybe I want to slither through this petal, or maybe I
Hmm.
want to go behind this one. So it just creates to me a more visually interesting composition than, if it was just snake flower.
Yes.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
Is this for a client, you said?
it will be going on a client, yes.
Very cool.
I'm probably going to scale it down a little bit more and make it a little bit more simple. But I mean, this is, the concept draft. He's coming in 2 weeks to get started on it. It's a
Mhm.
whole lower arm half sleeve
Yes.
that we're going to be integrating into an upper arm half sleeve that he already has that I did in February of last year,
So the
February or
upper part's
March.
done. So you're doing the
Yeah.
lower part. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So now we're just kind of tying things together. Funny thing is, I'm actually tattooing a snake and a peony. Small little guy, nothing crazy, like softball size, maybe a little bit bigger, on the guy's daughter on this Thursday.
Hmm.
So I'm like, listen, in order for this to be like a joint tattoo thing where like you guys are both in this together, it's like you're both getting snakes. We'll do different flowers.
Yes.
And he's one of those guys that's like, yeah, whatever. Here's
Yeah,
a
they're
spot.
always down. Yeah,
Fill
they're
it
just
up.
down.
Like
Yep.
color, black and gray, doesn't matter. Do your thing. Do what you want. Do what you love. Make it look awesome, and I'm gonna be happy with it either way.
That's so
You know,
perfect. Those are
which
always the best ones.
it's the best, but I almost find it difficult.
It is
Hey
because it's such
Patrick.
an open book.
Yeah, well, so I'm one of those people where I prefer to work creatively within constraints. If as much as as much of an oxymoron as that is, I find freedom within certain constraints. Give me a direction to go
I
in.
love direction.
Give
Yeah, give
me
me
give me a
something aesthetic.
style
Yeah.
or okay, let me see what other tattoos you have. Cool. Okay, so to stick with that kind of a theme, we can move in
Hmm.
this direction.
Right.
Or if you really like this kind of flower, cool, we can move in that different direction. But give me just some guidelines.
Teensy bit, just a tiny
Don't
bit.
just sit back and be like, yeah, do whatever you want. Cause like I can almost guarantee you that what I come up with, you might not be a fan of.
Right.
It might be something totally outside of what you might have thought I would be doing. And that can really throw people off sometimes.
I definitely
Um,
like some sort of direction, a theme, an aesthetic, even if it has just a certain feeling. That's
right.
super, super helpful.
So, speaking of constraints and whatnot, Travis Luley is actually in one of the chat rooms. So he's asking, does the adjusting have anything to do with the position of the design on the quote landscape of the person that you're working on?
Mm,
Sometimes, I
yeah.
mean, pretty rare. Yeah, I mean, it really depends. I would say that placement's one of my first decisions and
Yeah.
dictates how I create from that point. So if somebody came in and changed the placement, I'm kind of like, oh, snap. um, but sometimes you do stick a stencil on and you're like, this actually wasn't exactly where I thought things would flow because I'm not drawing right on your body all the time. So there's some adjustments to that where I might draw a little bit a different direction with some leaves or some sort of swoopy things, or change the direction of my little jewels or danglies or stuff. But I would say most of the adjustments is really coming on during the tattoo more than anything else.
See, I'll try to make some of those adjustments ahead of time if at all possible. Sometimes you just can't, you have to adjust them on the fly, you know. But as you had mentioned, like when you get people that come in that say, oh yeah, by the way, I was thinking instead of doing like my right upper arm, could we maybe move it to my left hip? It's like, you're now forcing me to change the entire composition and the entire flow of everything that I've just spent how many hours working on.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, granted, I say hours because I'm pretty slow when it comes down to drafting and drawing and stuff like that. Um, I I I work a little bit slower just because I'm working sporadically here and there. I might have an hour here or 2 hours that night, or, you know, maybe I'll get done this tattoo 45 minutes early and it's like, cool, I'll be eating a snack in the back while I'm working on drawing something up, you know, but I have very limited time constraints. So it's like, okay, things generally take me a little bit longer because I have to get my mindset back into what I was doing, what direction I was planning on heading with it. And then from there, it's, you know, it's like, okay, now I'm back in here. Let's rock on this for a little bit. So it actually ends up only being like 30 minutes worth of productive time once I can get
Mm-hmm.
back into that. If I'm looking at like an hour's worth of you know, say I have an hour time block, it's only really like 30 minutes worth of, you know, actual productive in the zone. I'm working on this, getting it done kind of drawing time. So and that's just because I work a little bit slow. Um, it's the way I've always been. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, I mean, that is kind of just the way that I see things. Uh, but, you know, it's like, all right, well, now I have to scrap it. And now I have to start over with another composition. And it's like, all right, well, in order for this to look the absolute best it can, we're going to have to reschedule you because this is an unexpected change, you know, that I was not prepared for. And you kind of made this on the fly and didn't bother to tell me about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets to be a little frustrating sometimes. But so good question. Just had a question come in through YouTube about how would you guys approach a client if they want to change the location of the tattoo on the day of the tattoo?
It definitely depends on where it was in the first place.
Right.
And if my drawing was versatile enough to go into a different placement. Sometimes if it's really simple, like, oh, I wanted it on my right arm, but now I want it on my left arm. All we have to do is hit flip on the iPad. Not as big a deal. But like Jason said, if it's going from an arm to a hip, the direction of the body flowing in that direction, we've already took the time to consider that in the design process. So if it's quick enough adjustments, as in less than 30 minutes, I'd say we're pretty okay. Depending on, it really depends on the complexity of design. If we're talking something the size of my hand versus a full day session, two different worlds. So it definitely is very, very case by case scenario. I wouldn't have a blanket statement for something like that. But in general, I can make things work. But if it requires much more than 30 minutes of adjusting time and drawing time, if I have another appointment to worry about, it's best to reschedule. It's best to plan accordingly for those kind of changes because it is permanent and we want to put the best out for you. And we want to make sure that you're making a conscious decision about where you would like to place something because it does matter. You know, sometimes it matters for your job or what you represent to the world about where you're putting your tattoos. So we definitely want to make careful considerations throughout that whole process. And I guess at the time you are very angry about it. Or you're like, please, I was really ready for this. I'm really pumped about this one. And now it's going to be another month before I get to do it. But better safe than sorry, I suppose. But definitely when you're thinking about getting a tattoo, really do consider all your options and be prepared at the consultation or whenever you're reaching out via email or however your artist prefers to work together. Definitely try to be sure you've made all the conscious decisions you can to make sure we're doing our best job for you.
I've actually also started telling my clients ahead of time when they're booking, especially for larger pieces such as sleeves, say a big hip thigh tattoo, back pieces, full chest. Well, not so much full chest, but anything that's more one-sided or the other. Like if you're going to, please make all revisions, all final thoughts, all changes, get those to me at least 2 to 3 days ahead of time, bare minimum. If you
Hmm.
don't, you decide to change the placement on the day of the tattoo, it's like, and it's a drastic change. Cool, fine. I'll be happy to do that for you. But we're definitely rescheduling you because now I need to take certain element, like certain compositional elements back into factor and, tweak the design in order to get it to look right on that part of the body. I've always been an advocate of placement is everything. You can
Absolutely. We're
have
not
the
sticker
best,
stampers.
yeah. Well, yeah, except for stuff, that's small enough that it's like, yeah, you don't really have too many tattoos. Yeah, we can put this anywhere you want.
Hmm.
Um, obviously, so long as it fits that area, I'm not going to put something super wide and, an area that's really, really tall and skinny.
Hmm.
That wouldn't look right. But, as long as it's within reason, yeah, yeah. That's how I would address it. Um, everyone's got their own unique way of doing it, but I have no issues rescheduling people and saying, listen, maybe the design's taking a little bit longer than expected. Maybe there are certain design element challenges I'm facing that I just haven't been able to sit down and really work out. Maybe there's placement issues that I'm dealing with. Maybe, compositionally trying to get everything they want into this one specific design isn't really working the way that I thought. It's like, listen, things are taking a little bit longer. Let me
Hmm.
move you around and push you back like a couple of weeks and work on this a little bit more just so that you can get the best tattoo possible.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, people appreciate that. They
They
do. They're
do.
like,
They really
oh,
do.
all right,
Yep.
cool. Yeah, 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 yeah. Like, not a problem. Albeit, yeah, you're going to give me a much better tattoo if, I can hold off another week. Awesome.
I'm always apologizing for being a little bit of a perfectionist, and they're always like, no, please, thank you. I appreciate that, especially when I keep telling them I'm almost done, I swear.
Well, that's
And
what we call tattoo time.
we're liars.
That's tattoo
We're
time.
never done.
2 minutes can last 4.5
4 hours.
hours. I swear.
Oh man. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
always lying. We're almost
We
done.
we
We're
live
almost
in an
done.
alternate time reality,
Hmm. Especially
where it's like
tattooing.
just let me, you know, let me just bump the contrast on this one part a little bit more.
Hmm.
Okay, now that I did that, now I got to hit here,
Hit
here,
the other
here, and
side.
here as well.
Yes. Yep.
To make sure everything's balanced and there's enough contrast throughout the whole thing. And it's a never-ending process. I keep going back to this one fine art podcast I listened to where it was two fine artists that were going through and they were discussing, how do you know when you're done working on a piece? How do you know when you're done a painting? How do you know when you're done a sculpture? How do you know when you're done a sketch?
Almost never.
And one of them made a comment where it said it actually takes two people to do a piece of art. It takes one person to start it and do it, and the second person to tell them when to stop. Because in our eyes, being artists, I could ad nauseum go back through and work on every single individual tattoo I have ever done since I
Ever. Yep.
started tattooing
Hmm.
and just tweak and perfect and tweak and add contrast and do this and white highlights and maybe this line should be a little bit thicker. Yeah, that looks great. But now I have to balance it all out. So I could always perpetually go back into different pieces and just tweak and push and pull certain things.
Hmm.
So for me, it's almost like an issue of, all right, well, when do I really think it's done? It's like it never is, because I
Right.
will I will be happy to work on that same tattoo for years. So, but that's just the way I am. It's the
Yeah.
way I view the world. It's the way I approach things.
Like when I was in school and like just doing art, not a tattooer yet, I was kind of the worst at finishing things. I would start something and put it aside and then start another thing. And I think I was addicted to the starting process than I was to the finishing process. To me, it felt more, I'm getting it out of my system. I'm seeing the vision. I'm seeing what it's supposed to look like, and that's totally fine by me. I can live with it. And what I kind of love about tattooing is it almost forces you to, quote unquote, finish, because it's a person underneath you. They're coming to you. They're paying for a service. They have a life to get to. You can't just keep bringing them back 2 or 3 times a week, do this little thing and that little thing, send them on their way. So I actually kind of, that would be so nice. So it is kind of funny because tattooing kind of taught me to be a little more disciplined in making choices and executing things properly, because I have hundreds of paintings and drawings, or I buy a sketchbook and I'm like so addicted to a new sketchbook. I fill about 5 pages of it and then buy a new one.
Hey, speaking of sketchbooks, can you show us what you're working on?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I have my new little camera thingy. So
Yeah,
it
cool.
should be very easily there. Something like that. Kind of,
nice.
I have a client that was asking about a geisha. So I was kind of sketching a pretty geisha face. I'm going to try to do a little more negative space in here and kind of make these little leafy guys, like a negative space thing is the plan at the moment. So these will all be kind of darkly shaded back here. And then I kind of wanted to do a chrysanthemum kimono and a pretty fan, couple cherry blossoms going throughout, etc., etc. But it's kind of in its sketchy stages at the moment, so I might just make it a drawing, honestly, because she kind of wanted she had mentioned she was thinking about it more like a warrior kind of lady. And then I drew this and I was like, well, this one's pretty. I'll just mess with this for now and redraw hers, because I think I'm going to put a sword or something with her when get her a more fierce face. This one's definitely more just a beautiful face lady of a geisha, not so warrior like. So it's my warm up for whatever that piece is gonna be.
Cool. Looks great.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you.
It's actually something. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine, honey. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that's actually something that I found myself doing quite a bit more often lately, is asking people, well, what kind of an appearance, what kind of a theme or a feeling do you want this tattoo to have?
Yeah, I have been asking that question the longer I've been doing it. At first, you're asking, what do you want? And now I'm asking, how? How do you want? How do you want to feel when you see it? How do you want other people to feel? What do you want people to say? And what's the aesthetic? What's the, the feeling you want to have? Because I kind of am predictable as an artist. I would say that, most of my work is pretty consistent, and you know what you're getting when you're getting a Casey Hart tattoo. And I want people to have different feelings and different emotions attached to whatever they're getting with me. I don't want it to all be too much the same. I want it to have a style and a signature, but I want it to be unique to that person.
Well, and you never know what people are going to be coming in looking for. I have a lot of people that come in that want different styles of different things and different subject matter. And, I think one of the things that I've been running into is, say you get 2 people that walk through the door that both want a snake and a flower, hypothetically speaking, right? Well, depending on the aesthetic or the feeling or what they're trying to convey, I'm going to draw that in, 2 or 3 different ways. Maybe I'll draw that with the snake's mouth, closed, with like maybe just a little bit of a tongue flick coming out. And I'll do some soft rounded peonies or some shrub roses, which I've been a huge fan of lately. Those are the kind of roses with like the very rounded, they almost look like peonies, but they've got the very rounded petals. I didn't know what they were for the longest time until I actually went to like a hardware store and they were having a big plant sale, and I saw some blooming shrub roses and I'm like, what are those? I know those. What? I've seen those somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the perfect reference. But I had no idea what flower it was. So I was just like, oh, it's just a pretty flower. I don't know. But now that I know, it's like, oh, cool, great references. But long story short, I could go through and I could do a snake and a mum, and I could have the snake's mouth open with like teeth showing and a big long swirling tongue with some very sharp leaves in the background and give it very high contrast, or I can do it very soft and I can do it very light and I can do it, almost with a much more elegant kind of feel to it.
No, because I actually kind of picture snakes too as a very male or female version, like,
Depending on how you draw it, absolutely.
yeah. Because I could definitely draw an elegant looking snake who's a little more serene and, a little wise or something. And then you can draw a very aggressive snake who's fierce and ready to attack. It depends on what everyone's into.
Yeah, and once again, it's just one of those things where the more and more you do this, the more and more feedback you're looking for from the client. It's just something that never ceases to surprise me at just how people are looking to portray certain aspects or certain emotions, or they want a specific design to have a certain type of feel to it.
Hmm.
And that's something I'm always constantly looking for now is, all right, well, what do you want this to say? How do you want it to be? And, what are you trying to convey with it?
I
You
actually
know,
am curious about your process. Do you have people come in for a consultation? You see them in person, or do you have an email process, booking request form? Like, what is your process to kind of get all those questions answered?
usually I just shake a magic 8 ball, and just take a stab in the dark. It's like, oh, I think this is what they want.
This is what they're
Magic 8 ball. What do they want?
getting. What does
Ask again later.
Thomas
Drat.
what does
Um,
Thomas Jackson want as his snake tattoo? Ready, go.
yeah, like roll of the dice, get some of those tattoo dice and just roll it. No, I prefer to do in-person consultations, just so that I can sit down with them and get to really figure out who they are. How articulate are they? What kind of emotions are they using when they're telling me, hey, I want to get something like this in this
Hmm.
area? How open are they to suggestion? This is all going to add into it. And it's all going to play into how do I provide the best service possible and the best design possible for this individual client. Lately, due to COVID, I've been doing a lot of Zoom and Skype and FaceTime consultations, especially with people that are coming in from, that live 2 or 3 hours away.
Yep, absolutely.
All instead of having them drive 2 or 3 hours out,
For a
stop
10-minute
by, discuss
conversation.
everything with them, all for, maybe 30 minutes. To me,
Hmm.
that's not worth it. So I'll go through and I'll schedule something with them on Zoom, or I'll say, hey, if you have an iPhone or an Apple device and you want to FaceTime, we can do it over FaceTime. If you want to do Skype, we can do Skype. What method of consultation and communication works best for you? I mean, hell, Instagram video works well. You know,
Oh, I actually haven't tried that yet. Have you tried that? That works really good.
I've done that a couple of times and it works pretty well, especially for people that are international.
Oh.
Maybe I'll be going through and discussing a topic that maybe we discussed during a Sunday morning or a Sunday afternoon drawing group.
Hmm.
Someone wants to elaborate on it or wants to go a little bit more in depth on how I draw something, maybe how I lay out my chrysanthemums, or maybe how I decide on what angle to put the head of the snake. What do I prefer to do as far as like, how am I doing a layout? How am I doing, a value study? So I'm always looking at that kind of stuff. But for people that are more international, going through something like Instagram video is a blessing. It's absolutely phenomenal. You can go through, you can connect with them right then, right there. It all goes through Wi-Fi. So obviously, depending on the Wi-Fi network that they're on, maybe it'll work well, maybe it won't. But I've never had a dropped call. I've never had poor video
Hmm.
quality or audio quality on it.
Well, that's good.
So
I might have to
it,
try that because I have a few, out of state clients and everything, and I just been doing everything over the phone, and it's working okay. I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing, but I am finding that I'm booking more time for them just in case we need to make more adjustments, once
right.
they get there. But
And if you can have a more accurate representation of how long you're going to need to book that appointment for, it's going to
hmm,
be a blessing. It really does save a lot of time, prevents a lot of confusion, and it gets everyone's expectations on the
on the
board.
same, yeah, on the same page. Everyone's all in
Exactly.
agreement, which
What
I
are
do the
you
same
looking
thing.
for? What are your expectations? What's your budget? Um, what kind of a feeling do you want this to have? And you can always tell based on someone's reaction, especially facial features, which you can't necessarily tell over the phone. how
Mm-hmm.
they're going to react to a question that you ask. It's like,
Absolutely.
okay, well, did you want to go in this area or this area? And if they're really struggling, it's like, okay, well, maybe they haven't really decided on the location yet, so maybe that's something that we need to revisit, because that's going to change the composition of the whole piece. So it's little things like that that I've been finding just really make everything helpful. That, and I started taking all of my notes for my consultations right on my iPad, and
Been doing that too. Yeah.
that's been glorious.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll have them send me a picture of the area. That way I can check it for, like, moles, birthmarks, scars, stuff like that. Not that I can't work around it, but I need to know about that ahead of time before I start getting everything together, so that way I can draw something up appropriate for the area and there's no surprises. Um, it's little things like that I'll just scribble all down. I use a program, I think it's called Notes Plus.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, Notes Plus, for the iPad, and it is unbelievable. Everything syncs up. I've got different people in different folders. I can write down different notes on them. Like, um, you know, definitely not a fan of the color red. Prefers purple or pink flowers over red flowers. Um, is really fascinated with micro detail stuff. Loves black and gray composition, but is thinking about going more color. So I can scribble down all of these different notes, uh, just so that I know, okay, cool. I know everything I need to know about this tattoo and this person. Time to get going on it.
Right. I do the exact same thing. So like I was trying to find a decent example of yesterday at a consult. I actually just kind of sketch right in front of them and pull up a concept of something, and I write down all these notes. It says like, stay above the wrist because she doesn't want to go on the hand at all. Black and gray wants this to be this, soft, feminine, long, narrow shapes here. And I kind of write notes and stuff. I just forgot to put her name, but I usually write the name in there too, or something like this, forearm open to how it's placed. I even write the budget or the quote that I gave them. Kind of sketch like a potion bottle for Miss Karen. She likes the Harry Potter look. She wants this to be ornate. 250 to 300 was her budget. Antique label. So I just kind of do right in front of them. When I do get in-person consults, I just kind of pull them up with me and sketch a little bit, write down what they're looking for. And then I have very ugly sketches, something like this one, where this is obviously clocks and roses, if you can't tell at all.
Beautiful. Should be
It's so
framed.
gorgeous. Should be framed. But at least, and what I like about it though is that at least with Procreate, it does give you the time lapse videos. So it kind of gets me back into my old brain again. Like, where was I even going in this direction? Kind of
Right.
gets me back into my own headspace. So even though they're only like 10 seconds, if that, it shows how and what I was thinking at the time. That way I can revisit it. And then in my actual calendar has a good notes section that I put the more formal notes. So I kind of have both of those, and I have their original request form too, which has references in
Awesome.
it. So whenever I'm drawing for a client, I do have about 3 different things that I'm pulling up all at once as I'm drawing and as I'm planning to get everything ready to go for the tat
Right.
day.
Gotta love it. And then when that appointment shows up, you're already set, you're already ready. I'll always go back through and review my notes again real quick.
I do, because sometimes I
Um,
forgot a dragonfly or a sunflower. They wanted a sunflower,
right.
or I always forget something, or they wanted a honeybee or something with it. I'm like, oh crap. Okay, well, let me put that in there real quick before they show
Like,
up.
oops.
Can you guys see this okay? Because this is my first time
Yeah,
trying it with the. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
absolutely.
looks great.
Sweet. Awesome. Trying it with the new thingy that I got on the Amazon.
Good old Jeff Bezos. Yeah, I've had quite a few people come in. I just had someone book up a session with me the other day. And this was, just going back and forth with them, going through a pretty casual consultation, nothing super crazy. Someone I had tattooed before, had them in for an in-person consult. They're local, so that was awesome. But I was like, okay, listen, we're going to go through the same kind of process for this next piece that you want as we did for the first piece that you got.
Mm.
And they had been going to someone else. They had a couple of smaller ones, and they were kind of shocked at the fact that I wanted to sit down and talk with them about it. And I'm like, well, there's a difference here. Um, this is something that I like to do. It more so for my own preference than anything else, because I really want to get to know the individual. I want to
Mm-hmm.
know that you know what you're talking about, you know what you like, and you know what kind of an aesthetic you want in said tattoo. If you don't know that, it's like, all right, well, now I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant. And there are some people that I'll get them in, and I'm just not getting a really good solid vibe from them,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not getting the idea that they really know what they want. And if someone doesn't really know what they want, I don't want to tattoo them, because they're not going to be happy with it in the end. I'm not going to be happy with it in the end, because they're not going to give me a clear idea, and then we're going to go back and forth. There are some people out there where money is literally just burning a hole in their pocket and they just want to spend it on a tattoo. It's like, well, that's great, but you know, that's not necessarily something that I might want to provide for them, because a lot of what I do is bigger projects that are,
Yep.
a lot
Very
more thought
involved.
out, and
Yeah.
they're going to take multiple sessions, but what you get in the end is going to be incredible.
No,
So
I'm really in awe of how large scale your pieces are all the time, because I find them so challenging and so exhausting, but they're so worth it. I tend to work like either 2 half days or a full day on a piece, and it's 80% of the time it's done, when they walk out of the door. It's a completed piece. I have some sleeves and larger leg pieces that I'm working on and everything, but a majority of my work is definitely finished within 3 to 8 hours each time. And I would love to like start doing more large scale pieces. I don't know if you saw the back piece I did in 2019. Um, that was a
really,
12 hour back piece.
really,
Oh
you
yeah,
walked
you
by
were
the
there.
booth I was working at just
That's
to show
right.
me the stencil.
Oh god, the stencil stressed me out.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
me,
you
it's
were there.
like, all right, yeah, that's going to be awesome. Like, I'll be over and take a look at it. I think I was also working on someone for 2 consecutive days at
You
that
were,
show.
yep. I want to say it was a big snake. Oh,
Yep,
on the
big
leg, on the
snake and
side
a
of the leg.
peony.
Yep, on the
Yeah,
side of the leg,
yeah,
if I
covering up
remember
a
correctly.
whole bunch of other stuff.
I'm pretty sure that's the last convention I went to, and it makes me want to cry.
That's a shame.
Oh,
But I
I
mean, to
miss the
me,
conventions.
large scale tattoos are just the same as smaller tattoos. It's just little bits at a time. You know, I, I keep referencing going back and getting my side tattoo by my friend Phibbs. And to me, it was a very religious experience,
Hmm.
because, it was my first like super crazy, huge multi-session kind of project. Before they had all kind of been, they were big, but a lot of them were done in one shot. Granted, I'm not exactly the tallest of people. So, I don't really have too much surface area to work with to begin with.
Right.
But for me to have, you know, literally a massive tattoo stencil put on me, and then knowing and well, figuring out what I was getting into when it was like, okay, well, I'm going back for, color session number 3, that's going to take 4 to 6 hours. And there's still going to be more to be done with it after that. Um, it, it, it really helps you appreciate the process. And
Right.
when you start to get super crazy, huge tattoos done, it becomes more of an endurance race. And the sense of accomplishment you get after that endurance race
Uh-huh.
is, to me, unlike anything else you can ever experience. It's, can I see this through to the end? Can I finish it? Can I see this project all the way through, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how much, I may want to say, you know what,
I don't need
I'm
it.
done
I
with
don't
it.
need it. I don't need it at all.
I'm good with it the way it is. No,
Yep.
no, leave
It
it
doesn't
the
need
outlines
anything
and
else.
halfway colored.
Yeah.
You know,
It doesn't need anything else. It doesn't even need those leaves. You can just leave them out.
yeah. It's when you start to get into things like that, it really just helps you, once again, in my opinion, it helps you appreciate the process that people go through when designing it, when laying it out, and then chipping away at it little bits over time. It to me just really, it just really helps you appreciate the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of why I started gearing a lot of my work towards large scale tattoos. Um, I'm a very process oriented person, believe it or not. So I enjoy going through individual processes and taking the steps that need to be done in order for things to be done right. Like if I'm working on a watercolor painting, that is a very, very process oriented thing for me. I'm very meticulous with the surfaces that I paint on, how I prepare those surfaces, what brushes I use. Am I soaking and stretching watercolor paper and then stapling it down to a piece of MDF? Or am I using it on particle board? Am I taping it down? Because that's going to be a totally different process.
Mm-hmm.
How big am I working with it? And then am I going to do a base tone to tone my paper before I start painting? These are all individual unique processes that I love to
Mm-hmm.
work with. Because
It's like
for me,
it's all these choices.
it's choices, but it also depends on the ultimate outcome and how do I want it to look. If I'm going to go for something that's a little bit more bold and clean, then I'm going to work on something like Arches 140 or 300-pound bright white, cold press watercolor paper, as opposed to something that maybe I want to have more of an illustrative look, with a lot of super fine details. If that's the case, I'm going to work on illustration board, or I'm going to work on Arches 140 hot press. Either way, I'm going to soak it and stretch it out, unless it's illustration board, obviously. Um, if I'm soaking the paper, how long am I going to soak it? What's the weight of the paper?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to stretch it out? What surface am I going to stretch it out on? I can use it on canvas stretcher bars, which I've done several times. That creates a pretty cool surface to paint on too. And it's the way that liquid, acrylic, watercolor, and marker all lay into the paper, and the just how things look when you soak the paper, stretch it out, and then paint it. I love working on that surface. Everything absorbs
Mm-hmm.
very, very quickly. Everything dries pretty fast. You don't notice any warping of the paper, so it makes it a lot easier to work on. And you can do large areas of wash very, very easily to get super fine gradients and blends. But for me, once again, it's process oriented. And because it's process oriented, I'm absolutely in love with it. And it's a fairly quick process too when you get the hang of it.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
it's
it
just repetition.
it is. It's like doing a copper plate print. I did a lot of those when I was in college and absolutely loved printmaking. I don't have the $50,000 to go through and buy my
Yeah.
own printing press, but
No.
if I had the opportunity to, I would love to get back into that because that was just absolutely unbelievably the time of my life. If I wasn't a tattooer and I had the money, I'd love to get back into making my own prints,
Mm-hmm.
like handmade copper plate prints and monotypes and lithographs and stuff like that. I would love to get back into that.
Mm-hmm. I actually enjoyed that a lot in school myself. I was definitely really into watercolor, and it was mostly because of the process for stretching the paper, and you had to kind of like wait for it to be ready. And it's
Yeah,
an incredible amount
very
of
true.
patience. And I kind of fell in love with that myself, actually. It wasn't even really the painting that was so fun about it. It was waiting and stretching the paper and getting splotches made and everything. I actually really miss doing that. Getting all your colors out on a sheet and seeing what looks like what when you get new watercolors. That's the best. It's like Christmas morning.
Right? Hey, Patrick. Patrick's still connecting to audio. Yeah, but I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm completely and totally 100% addicted to buying new art supplies. Back
Oh
when
my God,
AC
yes.
Moore was still around, I think I ended up
Yes.
buying half of their fine art aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of them are duplicates of certain things because it's like, well, just want to make sure I have this on hand just in case. But
Hid in
in
a
my
candy
opinion,
store.
well, absolutely. In my opinion, you can never have too many art supplies just because there's so many awesome things you can do using different mediums,
Yep.
and until you've tried said medium, how do you know that you don't enjoy working with it?
I want to try everything. That's why I went to school. I wanted to try everything.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I did get out of going to art school was it exposed me to working in different mediums and like soft pastels. I would
Mm-hmm.
have never picked them up if I hadn't ever been required to use them. It's like, yeah, but why would I want to use chalk? That
Right.
come to find out that soft pastels are actually some of the most opaque mediums you can use.
Use so much
Um,
layering. That's what I love about it. It's like so much layering to get your saturation. And I actually enjoyed pastels when I was in school.
See, I always found that they were very difficult because they were so opaque. You
Mm-hmm.
do a little bit of a color in just the wrong spot, it's almost like it's like painting over something in acrylic,
Yeah.
only it,
No.
it doesn't take any effort.
Nope. You just touch it.
Yep,
Breathe on it.
that's all you have to
It's
do.
there.
And boom, all of that work that you put into that one little area is now gone.
Yep.
So, I mean, I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it at the same time just because I like to layer. I did enjoy working with oils, but I just didn't have the patience for it. And it
Oh, I
always
don't have the
frustrated
patience.
me.
No, I can't. I can't wait 6 days for something to dry. That's just not happening.
Yeah, I actually found that if I started mixing in a lot of liquid with my oil paints, that it would dry a lot faster, like 3 days. But still, that's 3 days that, it's in the process of drying where you're sitting back and you're like, man, I just want to continue working on it. I want to do it some more and I can't because I don't want to mess it up.
Yep. You have to wait. It's such a long process.
It really is. I love the effects that they get. I absolutely love them. I just, once again, it's a personal thing. I don't have time and the patience to work with that. Unless, of course, this was like I was back in school and I had a dedicated studio space that I could work in. If I had that, oh man, I would be all about it. I would get back into them in a heartbeat because I could
Mm-hmm.
literally just go over, put it on the drying rack and not worry about it, for another 2 months. So I think a lot of the reason why I don't continue to work with them is just because I don't have the requisite studio space and drying racks and stuff like that in order to facilitate using them.
I struggle with charcoals. Like I
See,
understood
I
them,
didn't
and
mind them. They weren't my favorite, but I mean, they weren't, too difficult in my opinion.
I think it was the mess for me. Like even though there is a way to keep it clean, I just wasn't about it. I was like, no. I was definitely a better acrylic painter, watercolor painter, more so in
See,
those ranges.
I was always a fan of acrylic, but not like your standard medium body acrylic. I always preferred the fluid acrylics, stuff that you could use like little watercolor tricks with all the time.
Mm-hmm. But this, oh
Hello,
gosh,
Han. Han is joining us from Germany.
wow, hello.
Welcome, welcome.
Yes, welcome. That is so cool. I wish I was from somewhere cool.
If anyone is recently tuning in, I know so we're almost at an hour here, so we'll probably stay on for a little bit longer. But anyone that's joining us recently, if you guys have any questions, comments, anything like that, anything you want us to discuss, feel free to ask.
Yeah, we're here.
We're open books. That's part
We're
of the
just
reason why we're
chilling.
doing this.
We are just chilling. Just some tatters, doing arts and stuff.
I like to paint. Yeah, I actually I've been considering getting back into oils again. Um, you know, trying to figure out as far as like drawing racks and studio space and all that stuff. I've got the room for the studio space. I just need to figure out where I could put like a nice drawing rack.
Hmm. I don't know the last time I actually. This is terrible. I can't believe I'm saying this, but like I've actually just been on the iPad for so long, and I haven't organically really done anything on another medium in a while. Maybe some sketching here and there on paper, but definitely nothing more involved in. And that is why I'm here. I'm gonna try to get some art supplies and get
Yeah,
back into some things.
it's amazing how just coming across one person and interacting with one individual, randomly or sporadically here or there can really completely and totally change your perspective on things. I always used to work digitally, and then I started, getting more back into the analog mediums, and then that switched back into digitally again. And then, so it's a flip flop, but I always try to crank out at least one analog painting or, marker rendering or colored pencil rendering. I try to, crank out at least one of them using some type of an analog medium at least once every other month, uh, usually only because that's all the time I have to invest into it. Now that everyone's back up and tattooing full time again, it's always a struggle of, okay, if I only have so many hours in the day, what's my priority? Where do I want to put my time? How
Mm-hmm.
much time do I want to invest into, making a new oil painting or working on one that's already there, as opposed to getting my designs drawn up for the next week or 2 weeks, staying on top of that, getting ahead of that. And then, okay, well, if I'm already up and on top of that, say it's one of those I call them miracle months, where like it's all just like repeat clients that are coming back
Oh,
in to start working
yes.
on this or that. And it's like, all right, now I get to work on something that's super fun. So it's always interesting. It's always a challenge to find the time.
How many days a week do you tattoo?
5.
5 days a week.
Yeah. I'd love to cut down to 4 and just work on huge, huge, huge projects all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I just moved back in January. So, and, bills and adulting and stuff, travel, saving up for that. So it's a little bit of a challenge until I can get things a little bit more stabilized. Especially with COVID this year, it was absolutely ridiculous. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I was worried for a little bit, but I mean, not too much because I've been fortunate enough to have a bit of money saved up, that I could spend on, okay, well, this is going to be how much money I need for rent for the next month or two. This is cable bill, this phone bill, so I was very fortunate in that aspect that, I've always been able to put away a certain amount of money. So I mean, I wasn't really worried in that aspect, but it was like, it was kind of tricky at certain points and
Absolutely.
very interesting at certain times. So let's see.
Uh, are you reading the? Oh, Hanley retracted his comments.
Yeah.
Oh.
Uh, it was something to the effect of when people bring in reference, what's cool to copy, how much, if, how many edits is enough edits? Do you need to like really just start from scratch, kind of a thing?
Tricky question.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of, yeah, bring me in reference, give me a direction to head in, show me what kind of stuff you like. And then, from there it's like, okay,
This is
well,
from a tattooer who's wondering about how much to change something that somebody brings in.
Hmm.
I would say take the concept you know, that they bring in. Find your own references, take your own photos if need be, and kind of take things from there and draw your own version of it. Um, you know, that's something that I've always been a fan of doing, and it's something that I attest to till the day I die, is when you use those references as far as subject matter goes. I mean, even as much as perspective and placement,
Hmm.
even light source, you know, but then find your own references and come up with your own composition.
Yeah, pretty much can take like maybe overall aesthetic and um like you said placement and such, but I try to definitely change, like if it's something like this. I found a couple references. I'll pull them up. Just in general, the vibe that I liked about them. Sometimes I use like real people. Like this was kind of my main reference. I just love her pose. I love the jawline. I love everything about this one. Um, Found this one too. I like the negative space sleeves. Kind of that's where that kind of came from. I love this one too. This one was my second choice. Found this tattoo that I thought was really pretty and has these cool little danglies coming down. So I tried something similar. I love that it had a fan in it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna draw a different kind of fan. Saw this one too. I love this general pose that it's from the back. And she had a really cool kimono. Um, I like the hair in this one too. So I was taking some shapes from the hair in that one. So I'm kind of nitpicking little type of things from each thing and
Mm-hmm.
kind of going from there and creating this little guy because sometimes people don't have really good references or any references at all, and they just say, oh, I want a geisha. I'm like, oh man, okay, there's about
Yep.
150 ways to draw that. But I pretty much I try to work off real flowers, real people. I'll go into Joanne Fabrics or Michael's and take pictures of all the fake flowers that they have in there because I can get them
Oh,
at
absolutely.
any angle that I love getting them from the bird's eye view, side view of all these different flowers. I have an entire folder on my iPad that's just flowers. um, but I think as long as you're creating something on your own, you're not tracing something or copying side by side looking exactly the same. It's really a tricky question. I don't have the best answer in the world because some people just they just find something, trace it, slap it on somebody. I get it, got to make money, but I'm an artist, not a technician first. So I do want to create something super unique to that person. Um,
Yeah, I didn't
but
drown
pulling,
myself in debt in art school just to go through and say, okay, well, I'll just trace this out and give you the exact same thing.
I know it's
You know?
harder, it definitely is harder to sit down and make completely custom work 24/7 every time. It's a lot more work, but that outcome is way more worth it. And then people get to walk around and say, oh, yeah, look, I got a Jason Leeser tattoo. I got a Casey Hart tattoo, 100%. And they're proud to wear it. You're proud to call it your own, even though it's a lot more work and time consuming and difficult. And there's days I want to pull my hair out that I don't know what I'm doing. Um, I just pull a lot of references. I try to find things that I like about certain pictures or aesthetics or um, kind of nitpick little things and combine them all together. Because this
Yeah,
isn't too long of a drawing here, I don't think. Hour 48, that's not terrible. I draw pretty quickly for the most part.
yeah, I've got yeah, just to give you an idea, I've got about 41, well, a little over 41,000 photos on my iPad.
Just a little over.
Yeah, a couple hundred over, nothing crazy. My photo album is pretty ridiculous. It's so this is my folder of just tattoo
Oh
referenced
my gosh, look
photos.
how many there are.
Oh, there's subfolders within each of these.
There's so many folders.
So like, you know, I've got a whole folder of like human references, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, stock photos, some sketches, some drawing guides, you know, some bodysuit models and templates. You know, here's a whole folder of just eyes I found I really liked. Disney pinups, which
Yep.
are awesome done by one of my favorite illustrators of all time. So I had to add those in there. These are just some references of gypsies and various other types of pinups that I found that have a little bit more of like a darker side to them. That's just one folder. I've got, ornamental stuff. Here's different ornamental designs clients have sent to me over the years that are like, hey, I really love the way this looks. And it's like, cool, that's going in this folder.
That's going in this folder.
Skulls. Here's, a whole bunch of different albums filled with skulls. I've got 54 photos in that one, 158 in that one, 180 in that one, 24 in that one, 460 in that one. Sea life. What do you need? Snapping turtle, goldfish, coral,
Yes.
bugs, butterflies, spiders, religious stuff, statues, rose windows, stuff like that. Birds of all different types, flowers. This is my favorite folder ever. I've got 861 rose photos.
Oh my gosh, just roses.
Yeah, that's just roses.
Oh my gosh.
In every angle, perspective, and species you can imagine.
Yep. In every form and fashion.
Peonies. I've got 203 different peony photo references, geraniums, lotus flowers, calla lilies, daylilies, violets, scrub roses, hibiscus, trees, stargazer lilies, anemone flowers, which I've fallen in love with, bonsai trees. It's, you name it, I've probably already got a reference for it somewhere. I just need to figure out what folder it's in.
You are a master Googler.
I'm a master researcher.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time doing that. I've got a lot of different like inspirational stuff in here. I think I actually have some bodysuit references. I've got a whole folder of Ed Lee bodysuits that I found years ago online, that were great as far as like just going through and looking at, okay, how did they lay this out? Where is the primary subjects going? What areas have they left open? How did they design it? What's the flow look like, and what are some really cool ideas, like this little face down here in the bottom of it. Awesome. Here's another one that's kind of subtle in the background. Cool, that's a great idea. Maybe I'll come up with something like that. And different bodysuits and images. I've got, a whole folder of biomech stuff, from, gears and little cogs to, the hydraulics and inspiration for a sleeve that I did, clock parts, watch parts, hydraulic shocks, spring shocks, you name it. I've probably got a reference for it somewhere. It's, a lot of it's original stuff. Like I'll be out at a museum and I'll take a few photos of something. It's just, I'm a shutterbug. Most of the photos that I have on my phone aren't even on my iPad. I have to like airdrop them to my iPad if I need to use them.
Yeah, airdrop them to yourself.
Yeah, Barry's right up there. Barry joined us in one of the YouTube chats. He's got 43,200 pictures.
Wow.
Very nice, my friend. Very nice.
How do I find this out? I need to see this. I don't think I know I cleared mine out during quarantine because it was getting to be too many. Let me see if I can find how to.
Yeah,
photos,
so Barry, I
photos.
actually took like pretty much a full week and sat down every night for an hour or two and just started putting pictures in folders. I also work on a MacBook, and, I went through in that and took all of the individual, folders that I had for photo references on there, threw those into my Photos app and said, okay, here's this folder, here's that folder, here's this, here's an inspiration folder of all of the new inspirational stuff I found, which I think alone has something like 10,000 photos in it. So it takes a little bit over time to just go through and say, okay, these are categorized, these are categorized, these are categorized. It takes time, dude, to build that kind of a library and create folder within subfolder within subfolder within subfolder. But it saves so much time when you're trying to find, say, a reference of a crab or a lobster or an octopus or a clipper ship. or Norse mythology images. It just saves so much time. It takes time to invest into it, but once you do that, it's all efficiency. Did get another question though. What is everyone's favorite subject to tattoo and draw? Also, what
Ooh.
is your worst subjects to tattoo?
Who's going first?
I mean, I'll go first. I have
Go
no
for it,
issues with that.
Jason. Yeah, go for it.
So I am a huge fan of Japanese and illustrative stuff. I try to combine the two. So I like to do a lot of very illustrative Japanese style images. A lot of like very nice color blends and a lot of varied line weights, areas of no line weight, etc. That's my favorite to tattoo and draw. As you can probably tell, snakes and chrysanthemums are pretty prominent theme within Asian style tattoos in general. I also do a lot of dragons, a lot of, koi fish, things of that nature as well. Um, as far as like my least favorite to me is probably portraiture. It's something that, I still struggle with getting a hang of. It's something that, has always presented a challenge to me just because my mind tends to jump around a lot. And for me to sit down and really invest so much time into, working on facial proportions and then lighting, because the lighting that you have on a human face can make the whole thing look dramatically different. So it's really looking at those aspects of it that has always been a challenge to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I generally tend to stay away from that. Can I do it? Yes. Um, do I generally tend to recommend that out to someone else? I do. The reason behind that is because can I do it? And have I done it before? Yes. Are there people out there that can do it way better than I can? Absolutely. And at the
And they'll
end of the
enjoy
day,
it.
I'm more concerned with that client getting a better tattoo than I am about my own well-being,
Agreed.
because that person that's doing the portrait might not be able to pull off a Japanese dragon to save their life.
Right.
Where I'll step in and I'll go back and forth with different guys I work with at the studio, and I'll say, listen, if you want something like this,
This is your
super
guy.
photorealism, let me refer you out to this guy. Or you want something more horror related, let me point you in this guy's direction. If you want something more illustrative, or if you want something more, Asian inspired, let me know, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you out, and I'll be more than happy to put you in the book. But for something like what you're looking for, I'm going to tell you to go to this guy because I want you to get a better tattoo than what I know I would personally be able to provide. So,
I am
Macy, you're
exactly the
up.
same. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. But I do enjoy mostly flowers and pretty things. Do a lot of ornamental work, mandalas, ornamentation, like anything kind of vintage looking. Bohemian has been used to describe my stuff. I do a lot of fine line work. I use very tiny needles. I'll use big ones too. And then I tend to do. Let's see if I have like a decent client tattoo in here. Um, I do a lot of landscapes too. I'll do some cool things with mountains and sceneries. But a lot of the time, my work has floral components or ornamental components, a little bit of geometry, um, lots of flowers. It is a lot of flowers now that I think about it. What I probably least enjoy doing is pretty much the same as Jason, is portraiture. As in like someone comes in and says, here's a picture of my grandma, please tattoo it. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to fuck up grandma's face. You can see someone else. Can I do it? Yeah. Can I draw it? Absolutely. Is there people in my studio that enjoy it and do it way better than me? Absolutely. I also really dislike tribal. It's very tedious and kind of I don't know, I get kind of mindless autopilot on it. It's just solid black, solid black, solid black for a very long time. It's not something that challenges me or stimulates my brain. Um but I've been trying to draw things a little bit outside my comfort zone, especially on here. I don't draw a lot of faces, and now this is like the second face that I've drawn in front of everyone. So stepping outside my comfort zone a little bit, but I've been asking for it from my clients too. I'm like, come on, guys, give me a challenge, you know? Um, and it came, came right into my booking request. I got 3 requests for a geisha, and I was like, ooh, so I'm kind of practicing. This isn't technically for a client or anything. I'm just kind of practicing light, shadows, the general aesthetic. Yeah. So that's my spiel. I'm so good at this whole internet questioning thing.
Right?
It's a good question, though.
Yeah.
I was definitely taught by a guy who's, I guess, best described as like jack of all trades, master of none. So he made me a very versatile artist. My first few years of tattooing was definitely tattoo everything that comes in the door, do traditional, do dream catchers, do all the things. And then one day you'll just kind of find what you like doing and you'll find your style, because my drawing style and my tattoo style are actually 2 different things. Like my traditional background in drawing was from school when it was portraiture and figure drawing. So it was all shading, and most of my work is all line work now. So, you know, if you're kind of struggling with trying to find your style, don't, just let it come when it comes, because my style came from me wanting to get better at line work. My line work wasn't very good in the beginning, my first 5 years or so. I was like, I'm doing pretty good, but my lines are just not as strong as I want them to be. So I like drew up like 15 or 20 of these little palm size mandalas, like yay big, and offered them for like $50. I was like, whoever wants these, can you just let me practice some line work on you? And then after a few times of doing that, people are like, wow, you're really good at mandalas. You specialize in those? I'm like, yeah, obviously, totally. I'm totally good at them.
And now it's like all you do.
That's
Everything
all
you
I
do
do.
is like line drawings.
Yeah, isn't that crazy how that happens? Because I swore up and down I was going to be a color artist forever. I enjoyed color. I liked doing cartoony stuff, really girly things, that very kawaii style type things. And I was like, oh yeah, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm going to be forever. I hated black and gray. I hated line work. And that's entirely my repertoire now. So it's funny how things change on you, and it can change again. I can't sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm going to be a mandala line work floral artist forever. I could change my mind again in a few years. You never know, especially the way
Yeah,
things
but you know
change in
what?
tattooing.
You've been able to develop the skill set that you need to execute that. And that is ultimately, in my opinion, what really matters to be a very well-rounded, versatile artist. Because as I'm sure you've noticed, a lot of those same skill sets that you would have and that you've learned from doing that, as far as you know, your composition elements,
Mm-hmm.
your line work, getting everything super crisp and solid, that could directly translate over to something more illustrative
Mm-hmm.
or more color oriented,
Mm-hmm.
and just your application process and your technique process.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a translation from the stuff that you're doing now. And if you decide to switch gears, you can always take everything that you've learned and apply that to, whatever it is you decide to do. It's like
Yep.
working in another medium.
Yep. So I'm not ever going to sit here and say I'm glued to one thing. That's the fun part about being an artist, is you're challenging yourself, you're pushing yourself and doing something different every time. And like you said, translating those skills
Mm-hmm.
to something completely different. You never know. But right now I thoroughly enjoy it. I have a demand for it. There's people that travel to come get it done by me, which is like the craziest thing in the world to me. um, and I'm super, super grateful that people see it the way that I would hope, that they're like, yeah, this girl can do that, especially as a female tattoo artist. We have our own set of challenges, not like super feminist or anything like that, but um, it definitely has its own separate challenges in a more male dominated industry that I kind of had to prove myself in my artwork before myself as a person. So you got
Yeah,
to
I,
get
I mean,
good.
I don't. I'm don't know what those challenges are like personally. Um, so that's I can only begin to imagine, what you've had to overcome, being a female tattoo artist in a primarily male dominated industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, obviously the diversity and, the different perspectives that people have on life is absolutely nothing but a 100% asset, because it's allowing you to connect with different people in different ways, that, your standard, 60 plus year old biker dude who's been tattooing since the 70s without gloves, they won't be able to relate. They have
Yeah,
no
no.
concept of what it's like in this day and age. So
Yeah.
I find it to be, a very healthy asset, in this industry, because it does allow you a different perspective, and it allows us to sit down and focus on what do we need to improve to be more inclusive as an industry as a whole, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that, and you're pretty cool.
Oh, nah. Not as cool as
Okay.
Jason
No, I was
Leeser,
just
that
saying
guy.
that to be nice to you, but I mean, we both know the truth.
Yeah,
So
we're all nerds. Get out of here. We are the uncool kids in school. But it's so funny though, because we had brought this up yesterday in the shop that I don't know, we were talking like bullying or something as kids, and somebody said, well, at least I've never been pushed in a locker. And I said, oh, I was put in a locker twice in middle school. And the girl that did that to me reached out for a tattoo recently. Like, she put in a request, and I was like, this is hilarious. I can't remember what the quote is, but don't they say something like, when you're successful, you work in silence, and then one day your enemies will come and work for you, or something like that. I don't know what it was, but I don't know. Saw it on a meme or something one day, and I was like, well, that's hilarious, because it is kind of what happened. All these kids that picked on me in school and everything said I was the weird art kid. They're like liking my stuff on the Instagram, and they're hitting me up and like, hey man, you trying to tattoo me? We were best friends in algebra 2. Don't you remember? I'm like, nah, sure don't.
Casey,
Yeah.
Casey, you are still the weird art kid.
Oh, I
That hasn't
know.
changed.
Nope. And I haven't
I
grown
hate to
since
burst your
then either.
bubble there.
I haven't grown either. It's the same size, all 5 feet.
We
Oh
did
well.
get one more question on the YouTube. What would you like to see yourselves doing more of in the next few years?
This is why I'm with Jason right now, is I am trying to broaden my skills and just be around artists right now. I think with the pandemic, it made me very lonely, drawing alone and trying to work alone. And then even when we came back to work, everyone was kind of lazy about drawing. And I was like, no, dude, I'm trying to draw more. Let's go, and I'm trying to improve my skills and work outside of my comfort zone, because I've been tattooing almost, I think, 8 or 9 years now. I think it'd be 8 or 9. I have to do the math, but um, as much as I'm really proud of myself for the growth that I've made and, you know, the challenges that I've overcome, I'm kind of getting to a point where I'm like, okay, well, what's next? I want the next level. Let's go. I actually feel more hungry now, I think, than I was when I started. Um, and it's Instagram, it's seeing so many artists work all the time. As soon as I do a tattoo, I'm like, yeah, that looked good. I'm pretty awesome at this. I go home and get on Instagram and see what the rest of the world did. And I'm like, I'm trying to get to that guy's level. That's amazing. What I did was crap. Let's go. So I'm trying to draw more, doing more artwork just for fun, not just for clients, because it is a very demanding job, tattooing 5 days a week. And that means 5 to 10 drawings. And that means 5 to 10 ways of having to research and do emails and sketching and stenciling. And you kind of get worn out sometimes where, oh my gosh, I just did like 10 tattoos. I had to sketch it, draw it, stencil it, and tattoo it. You're kind of over it all. And all you want to do is do nothing. And I'm trying to do less nothing when I'm done. I'm trying to say, okay, get your feet up. Let's go. Do more, even if it comes to nothing. Like I Googled the other day, like how to draw smoke, because I was like, smoke is really hard to draw. And I'm not very good at it. So I found a really quick tutorial on YouTube, how to draw smoke. And I sat for 2 hours learning how to draw smoke. And it is already changing the way I'm looking at design, or the way I'm looking at the flow of my work, because this is so flowy. And I was like, well, I want more flowy things in my life. So just broadening my horizons and kind of becoming a member of the industry too is a big part of it too. Like this whole app and drawing together. is just really, really neat, especially that we can't be together right now. Because me and Jason know each other from conventions. And it's something that I really enjoyed doing, was meeting up with people during conventions and learning and drawing in front of each other, and pulling and trading skills. So I'm trying to do more of that in the best way possible, because COVID has changed absolutely everything of how we do everything. So that's what I'm hoping to do the next few years, is just be killer at drawing. Goal 1, draw good. Trying to be a
Yeah, I
monster.
mean, I have to mirror that as well. That's not that I wasn't always trying to keep my hand busy with, different art and trying different things. And, you know, uh, lately I've been taking on a lot more ornamental stuff, like sleeves, lower arm sleeves, different different hip pieces, a lot of geometric and mandala work, a lot of stuff like that, which has been a challenge. But it's like, for me, I guess the one thing I would like to see myself doing more of in the next few years is really growing my concept of how people do tattoos and their mindsets in different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I'm fascinated by. Not that I'm not going to continue to work on my art skills, and not that I'm not going to continue to work on, every tiny little bit of technique I possibly can, but I'm also trying to get a bigger, more broad perspective on the world as I know it. You know, Traveling back and forth to Europe a few times, knowing some people that have come from Europe and have been inspired by European styles, and how that translates into the tattoos that they do, has been mind blowing for me. Just reaching out to different artists from different spots and saying, hey, what's your drawing process look like? What's your concept process look like? What's your tattoo process look like? And how does that vary from what I'm doing? One of my ultimate most inspiring moments ever was I got to meet and talk to Dean Sacred at the London Tattoo Show one year, and it was absolutely unbelievably mind blowing. He's always been an inspiration to me. Um, you know, he's from New Zealand. This is one of the main inspirations and one of the main inspiring guys behind Steve Butcher and what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at Steve Butcher's work, your jaw hits the floor, and if it doesn't, well, maybe you need to reevaluate a few things. Um, Not saying that you're wrong or anything. I'm just saying his work is incredible. And if you don't see that, then, well, I don't know, maybe open your eyes.
Yeah, right.
But he was a major inspiration and motivating factor behind Steve Butcher. And the fact that I got to sit down and talk to this guy and pick his brain and watch him work, and just really experience like who he was as a human being, to me was an absolutely religious experience. I
Absolutely.
wouldn't trade that for anything. All of the money it cost me to travel over there, because I wasn't even working at the show. I just went over there to attend it. I think I got tattooed by Fibs that year at the London show. Maybe that was, yeah, yeah, that was, yeah, I got tattooed. I got a session done on my side done by Fibs at the London show that year. But getting to talk with him was worth every penny of just taking a long weekend, going on vacation, traveling out to London to go and see the London Tattoo Convention, walking around downtown Soho, and just getting to talk to people that had always inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
I got to sit down and talk to James Tex that year. That, again, unbelievably inspiring. So I'd love to travel a little bit more, get tattooed by a few new people that I've never been tattooed by, and just really start to expand my horizons as far as what does the international tattoo community look like. How are people doing things in different parts of the world?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to travel and do more tattoo conventions, and try to expand my social horizons in that aspect, because I tend to be a hermit if left by myself. Like, I don't really talk to too many people. I'm kind of a loner. I literally live in a house and it's just me. Well, I have a cat and she's probably going to jump on me and attack me in a few minutes. But the world as a whole and the tattoo community worldwide as a whole has been going through this incredible renaissance over the past, say, 8 to 10 years, where we're really starting to push the boundaries of what's being done, what can be done, and what are we looking at as far as a global community aspect. That to me is, with the world shrinking every day due to technology, and if we're not paying attention to what the world is doing on a more global scale as far as the tattoo community is concerned, then that's going to be a detriment to ourselves. We have to start looking at things more globally, because the world is shrinking, whether we want it to or not, every single year. We wouldn't be doing this right now if, I want to say lockdown didn't happen.
Well,
Right.
you might not be.
Well, yeah,
It is true that this has definitely opened up the doors for a lot of people, but we've been doing a lot of this stuff for a long time.
have you really?
I mean, webcasts and bringing people in and stuff. Yeah, it's. I was just showing. Who's it? Somebody that was talking about being nervous doing their first show. So I actually sent them a link to my first, the first show that I did. It was probably like eight years ago. And
wow.
but we've been doing videos and stuff before that. And guys always been into streaming. I remember we streamed Alex Gray. We did a whole bunch of like a psychedelic painting night, visionary painting night. But there's seminars and but I mean, to your point, since COVID, obviously the amount of people that are engaged in online interactivity shit like this is grown tremendously. And like, you used to have to be like a computer geek to kind of be motivated enough to do it. And now, and also technology has caught up, right? So now there's a phone, in your, it's not even a phone, like a computer in your pocket's got a full video, audio setup. So that's changed. And also, I mean, the other thing that's happened recently for us is guys got access via the cellular networks. So like, we used to have to like rent out places to do these webcasts, and we do them, instead of him being in somebody's house there, like I'd drive out there with all the equipment, and set up at hotels and shit, where they had the fat internet there. And to have the ability for him to be able to just connect in with his phone, to other people, to you and everyone else. It's so things are definitely changing. But I guess we have been doing this stuff for a long time. It's not that we couldn't do it to this scale if we had just started a year ago.
Fair enough. I was unaware of that.
Yeah, well, what I've noticed changing in the industry itself too, at least in America, I don't know if this is everywhere, but that people are just willing to share more knowledge than they used to. Kind of when I was an apprentice, I think I could name like 5 tattoo artists, and it was all very secret, hush, hush on how they do things and their process and what they do for drawing, what they do for their stencils, what they do for everything. And even just this app is just broadening the horizons of anybody who is just more curious or wants to learn more at any level. And I think that's what's been really great, is that I've learned so much from other artists, not just my mentor, because people have been willing to share that knowledge and help each other out. And I feel that it's been a shift or a change in the community aspect of tattooing, that I've fallen more in love with tattooing because I get to share my knowledge, and then I get to learn something from someone else, and it's how I met Jason, and it's creating those interpersonal relationships with each other. And we're all making each other better.
For sure. I mean, the guy's been doing this reinventing probably like 25 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And, started off as the binder. And so whenever he had like new chapters or whatever, he'd like mail out, the whole punched chapter so people can like put it in the middle of the binder and shit.
Yep,
And,
I had the binder.
Awesome.
Yeah, I gave it to my apprentice, and then he read the binder.
It's fun. It's amazing to see how again, the technology's kind of the technology's always kind of growing and going crazy. Being able to tap into it in different times and places is definitely interesting. It's very inspiring to be able to help connect, so many different people and new people. And I mean, I guess to your point, Jason, there are so many new people that are able to engage and want to engage and have to, at this point, it's pretty amazing. It's crazy. And then when we're able to get together in person again,
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Really
Yeah, tell
cool.
me about it.
We're planning on having like Reinventing, meetups, and so as people can get together safely in person and they can beam out to people, to the rest of the community. And I mean, we definitely have to figure out some of the audiovisual issues with microphones and whatnot. If we, are clever about it, we could just have like the one studio mic that goes, to the 360 camera or something. Really, a lot of cool shit we can do.
That would be awesome.
I can't wait for conventions and stuff. I'm so excited for whenever that day comes of being able to safely hug everyone again. Art jam. I may not even tattoo. I mean, I just want to hang out with everybody.
Right?
My wife tested negative a couple times, and one of her friends has been vaccinated, 2 or 3 times. So they actually hug. I don't mind not touching people, so I have no problems not hugging people.
You're like, keep your social distancing, please.
I'm like, I can stay 6
Casey,
feet
I
away from
swear, if your
anybody
hands
for
are
a very
sticky,
long time.
Sticky
But we
hands.
have plans to head over to the Brussels convention in November,
Oh wow.
and it's November 12th to the 12th to the 14th, I think.
Wow.
And presuming that vaccinations are available and I'll have to quarantine for 2 weeks in either direction, that's in the books.
I hope that
that's
can
actually
happen
kind of
safely.
what I'm waiting on is vaccines to open up, more publicly. And I was actually looking at the Brussels convention because I don't think the things that I wanted to do this year, as far as like maybe doing an Australia, Japan trip, I don't
Yeah.
know if that's really going to end up panning out this year. So I was actually looking at alternative ideas, such as, going to Brussels, because that's, obviously been on my European list for a little while.
Yeah, it's a great place.
And just
I guess
going and hanging out.
you must have heard the sad news about London.
Yeah.
It's sad to hear that it's the movement. Although I suppose Mickey did say not closing the chapter on conventions, just London, which is fucking wicked. That was amazing. As you were saying earlier, it's fucking unbelievable show.
Yeah. And it was for many, many years. I remember talking to a couple of different guys about it, and they were like, yeah, the London convention is like the World Cup of tattooing, and that was their whole concept on what they wanted to gear that show towards, but over the past few years, through talking to people that have been at it multiple times over many, many years, they were saying that it has changed quite drastically. So it's it's interesting. It's just to see the way that time evolves different events.
Yep. I mean, I always had a fantastic time there. I met Jeff there the first time, probably 2007, 2008, maybe one of those. It's all kind of blurry, but back that far. But yeah, there was always Mickey and his partners. They all know how to bring out the best of each of the different schools of tattooing. And to the best of my knowledge, I never saw any drama. I just saw a lot of tattoos who fucking represent the best that they have to offer, and everyone was getting along, having a fantastic time, being at an awesome spot. There was enough space, there was a lot of fucking people. But yeah, ultimately, every tattooer was exceptionally talented and represented tattooing in a way that honored Mickey. That guy's a tremendous amplifier of positive energy. So it'll be interesting and awesome to see what he does next. It's definitely sad to see the chapter close, but I mean that's the way shit rolls. So you can never take anything for granted. Like,
Yeah, it's conventions. I don't foresee conventions stopping in general. Over the next period of time, but to see one of the apexes of tattooing, kind of start to fade.
Hurts my heart.
It's tough. One of my life goals was always to actually reach the point where I could go and work at the London show. That was
Sure.
literally a life goal of mine.
Well,
That was
now you
on
got yours
my
to look
bucket
forward to, I
list.
suppose, eh?
But with the way that times are changing things, it's starting to, obviously, with the way that London is, and what's going on with it, it's interesting and it's sad.
I probably wouldn't. I can't imagine a convention in the U.S. probably at least till the winter. I would say, if that, it could even be into 2022.
Yeah, it's we're thinking like in October. I've got a venue scheduled for October that I'm trying to figure out whether we're bumping in or not. Or the convention that we're going to be doing in Rock River out in Illinois. Uh, that's with Guy and Rob. They put that'll end up being July 2022, and yeah, it'll be tough. There'll be people that will do them, I think, this year. I mean, as people get vaccinated, and by the time July, is here, if you're not relying upon like international travelers who travel a lot, then then people might end up out and about. But I mean, yeah, a lot of shit has to change. Right now, there's still fucking thousands of people dying. 4,000 people a day. Is that what?
Well,
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah.
oh, I haven't looked
Yeah.
at your chrysanthemum in a while. Look at that. It's so
Which
beautiful.
one? This is like number 3 I've been working on sporadically today.
Love it. Oh my god, I want it. Put it on my body.
Well, it's actually laid out for a full hip piece. I still have to do some background to it, but if anyone is interested in getting anything like this, I'd be happy to tattoo it on you. Feel free to hit me up. My Instagram is Philly Inc. Let's get it in the books. And I would be happy to tattoo anything like this on someone without a hesitation. I obviously I love doing stuff like this, and I love large scale work. You know, I've been really getting into doing a little bit of a few smaller projects lately. Just seeing them start to finish has been very satisfying. I still love my large scale projects, but just going through and seeing start to finish work, it's very satisfying. And I forgot about that. So maybe I will take on a few other smaller projects this year, but on top of like all of my uh, current large scale clients. But yeah.
Do you ever change your mind on how things are coming out when it is large scale? So it's like, okay, you did the outline, they came back, you maybe did some darker tones, and then they leave, and you're like, oh man, what if I did that instead? Like, do you ever have those kind of moments where you're like, maybe I'll do that and change that instead? And that's the challenge. I think if I had to imagine myself doing larger scale projects that come back 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times, how many times am I going to change my mind about something?
Well, I will say this. That is one of the beautiful things about working large scale is that you do usually get a little bit of time in between sessions. I always break mine down to say, okay, I'm going to do the outline in one shot, and then I'm going to have them come back, and then we're going to start working on, any of the undertones. And then from there, we're going to go through and build in some of the midtones and the lighter tones, and then we'll go through and do a cleanup session and kind of tweak and push and pull the contrast. So it really is a multi-stage process. But in between your line drawing and like when you really start building in those darker tones, you actually have a small opportunity to go through and say, okay, where am I really going to define my light source to be? What's really going to be my darker areas? What's really going to be my lighter areas? Once the outline's down, that doesn't change. So you are kind of bound to that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is room to adjust where your light source is.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
When you're adjusting where your light source is, that's going to adjust, where your individual values are. Now, if you tend to tattoo in a little bit more of like a comic book illustrative style, you may have to go through and adjust certain amounts of line work here and there, just because your line drawing can have a direct compositional effect on where your light source is coming from.
Right.
Generally speaking, as far as your illustrative tattoos are concerned, if you look at some of the more interesting and better rendered compositions, you're going to see older, darker lines at certain spots where the light is not hitting. Your shadowy areas, your reflective light areas, you may see a thicker line there as opposed to the top where you're getting a lot more direct light, where your lines might be a little bit thinner. It's just
Mm-hmm.
another way to depict light source when using only line. So you may have to adjust certain things here and there, but overall, if you stick with a very kind of loose gray line concept before you really start to get into building your darks, building your lights, which is something I actually prefer to do, is start out with all just like kind of lighter gray lines, as opposed to diving into here's my hard black
Sure.
lines. I prefer to do that kind of last. Um, you know, Back when I was just getting started into larger scale work, I would try to do everything with and lay out all of my black lines first. But, as you develop a bit more of a skill set and you start to learn a few other things by starting out with more of like a grayscale line work and then building your dark and light values and then going through and doing, say, like a cleanup session where you go through and do all of your outlines last, that will really allow you to kind of put more emphasis and focus on certain spots.
Right.
So it's something that I've been finding myself doing a bit more of lately, that I'm really enjoying the way that things are going with it. So, and it also allows for a little bit more flexibility because you're not necessarily, stuck with the lines that you put down. So, but I mean, everyone's got their own take on certain things. I know certain people out there that will literally go through and just blast their heavy, dark, crazy, thick black lines first, which
Yeah.
is totally fine,
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen guys that could literally outline an entire back piece in 4 hours
Right.
with some of the thickest, boldest, most chunky, most solid black lines you could ever imagine in your life. Um, Actually, a guy, I just gave him a shout out on Instagram the other day, Mikkel Ostberg. And let me see if I can bring up his Instagram. Literally is one of the like forefronts in doing stuff like this. Let's go through and we are going to do this. Let's do share screen. Cool.
Ooh.
So this is Mikkel Ostberg. I met him down at the Puerto Rico show, and he is one of the fastest tattooers I think I've ever met.
Ooh.
Watching him outline a whole back piece is a religious experience. I mean, like, just looking at these lines alone,
Yeah.
in this one tattoo, and looking at the scale of them.
Just so bold.
And yes, this is an entire leg.
Oh my God. Wow.
And that was all done in one session in one shot. And he's on another level when it comes down to line work and just quality of work. And the speed at which he works is unbelievable. You know, getting to see some of his pieces that he's done in person, flawlessly clean. I think he actually won. Let me see if I can find the photo. I just passed it a little bit ago. So this was taken at the London the Puerto Rico 2019 convention, which I was at. And, you know, just really sitting down and studying some of his work, mind blowing how he does what he does. And he's got like a couple of little tricks and secrets to how he does things. And it's like, I remember sitting down and looking at them and just trying to figure out, how is he doing this so quickly? And I still can't figure it out to this day.
It's a wizardry.
He is. He's casting spells. He is a wizard. You know, but he's also one of the nicest guys you will ever meet in your entire life. You know, he's a tall dude too. He's I think 6'4".
Oh wow.
6'4", 6'5". And he's like one of those like world's strongest man kind of guys where you look at him and you're just like, you could snap me in half with your thumb.
Maybe that's the secret to the lines.
I mean, I don't know.
He tells that machine, you are going to lay these crispy lines right now or I will punish you. And the machine is like, yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, it listens, you know, when he says something, he's a very soft-spoken individual. But when he talks and when he, you know, when you sit down and you discuss something with him, he's very insightful, very intelligent, very articulate. So you sit down and you really absorb everything that he says. And to me, that's like, it's enlightening anytime you talk to him about, you know, tattooing or artwork or anything like that. I may actually reach out to him and see if he wants to jump in on one of these
I was going to
sessions.
suggest that, actually. That would be awesome.
You know, because he's just such an awesome, super friendly guy. A little bit shy at first, but, you know, once you get him talking, man, it's awesome. It's just enlightening, to say the least. But his use of line and selective line and bold line is just unbelievable.
Cool. So, hey, it's just about 3:00, so maybe it's a good time to give it everyone chat a little bit about what they're working on and how to find you. And then we will be reconvening at 9:00 Eastern for this fantasy paint jam. If anybody's digging this and wants more.
Awesome. Well, my name is Casey Hart. I'm just south of Baltimore, Maryland, in the U.S. And my Instagram is artxhart tattoos. That's ARTXHART tattoos on Instagram. Or you can find me at caseyharttattoos.com. And I just kind of was feeling inspired by one of my clients' ideas of a beautiful geisha. And I was like, well, I've never really drawn a geisha before, so I'm going to get some practice. So I don't know how well you guys can see, but I'm just kind of sketching, building up some contrast and stuff, art terms and things. But generally I do very floral pieces, ornamental pieces, geometry, and mandalas. But I think this one will be a really good challenge for me. So we'll see if this ends up being what it is on skin or if I come up with another concept, which I'm feeling more toward another concept. This one's kind of for me, I think, where I'm just kind of getting some experimentation out of the way here. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Feel free to reach out, shoot me an email, messages if you have any questions, or like what you see, etc. We like likes, we like comments and stuff. So yeah, Mr. Jason.
So I am Jason Leeser. I'm a tattooer outside of Philadelphia, about 30, 45 minutes north of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I work at a studio called the Inkwell Tattoo in Southampton, PA. My Instagram is at Philly Inc. It is a pleasure to host these sessions with everyone. If any of you ever have any topics you want discussed, if you guys have any feedback on anything, if there's ever any questions that you specifically have or anything of that nature, feel free to let us know. Drop us a message on Instagram. We'll be happy to bring things up during next Sunday's 1 o'clock drawing session. These do usually go on every Sunday at 1 o'clock. You can also find me jumping in and jumping out of various other Reinventing the Tattoo art sessions. I'm going to try to make it to the Fantasy Art Jam tonight at 9 o'clock. You can also find me in the Monday morning drawing sessions with Jake Meeks tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So yeah, if there's ever anything that anyone ever has questions about or wants to discuss or anything of that nature, feel free to drop me a note on Instagram or shoot me an email at jasonltattoo@gmail.com. And by all means, another way to get a hold of me is through the Reinventing the Tattoo app. It's free. Yes, free. You can download it for free, join the community. We've got all different types of stuff going on, all different types of events, announcements. We've got different collaborative groups in there. It's a great way to get a hold of myself, Casey, Gabe. You can interact with all different types of tattooers from around the world. It's an absolutely incredible community to be a part of, and it's really educational. You can find me. My name's Jason. I'm right there on the Reinventing the Tattoo app. I'm also a huge tattoo history nerd. So every now and then I like to post interesting historical articles that I find. If anyone, has any final comments, questions, or anything like that, drop me a note. That's Casey's profile. And
Thank you, guys.
yeah, Gabe, thank you very much for facilitating all of this today. Hope everyone had a great show today.
Yep.
And yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys again next Sunday at 1.
Next Sunday at 1.
Awesome. And then, I'm going to just share that screen again. If anybody wants to watch the replays of these, they go to the library and then videos. And then we've got the Reinventing Drawing Group. Inside of here, we've got the free exercises and the drawing groups. And then, voila, there's the whole crew here. So if you ever are am I actually screen sharing?
No, not yet.
Yeah, that was funny. Okay, I'm going to back up here for a second here.
You were a minute ago.
There it is.
There we go. Okay. So this is the Reinventing app and community. You can find it in the app stores. If we get into the library, videos, the Reinventing Drawing Group, and then we have the free exercises, and then the drawing group. This has the upcoming ones and the replays. So if you're ever looking for amazing amounts of entertainment to put on in the background, here you go. You could throw these on in the middle of your tattoos or put them on in the front room or whatever. And they all have a lot of good stuff. People have been talking about it in the groups. They listen to them. It sparks ideas. They're updating art and stuff. And in any event, awesome. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And yeah, hopefully we'll catch up in the future.
Thank you, Gabe.
Take care.
Cheers.